In this video, I'm going to help you understand generative orchestration topic triggers inside of Copilot Studio. Let's start with making sure that you understand that there are major components of Copilot Studio itself, one of which is topics, and we'll be talking about topics specifically in this video. And topics are where we're going to have full control of conversations and things of that nature, where we can really do all the advanced things inside of Copilot Studio. Knowledge is our SAS-based RAG pattern implementation and the ability to be able to do search and summarization type of activities. We have actions. Actions are going to be where we can actually put conversational wrappers around APIs or Power Platform connectors or Power Automate flows, things of that nature. And then there's analytics, which allow you to be able to get reporting information about what's going on. You have your channels, and the channels are the way that the human's going to interface. And then we have our whole variable management system that allows you to store information for use at later times and be able to build logic within your conversational agent itself. So these are all the major components of Copilot Studio, but let's dive in a little deeper. So let's talk about what is the planner or the generative orchestration layer that's turned on when you flip that switch to say that you want to use a large language model for generative orchestration. At that point, you're enabling a large language model to do the intent routing or entity extraction. I've got a video for my Natural Language 101 course. If you look here, I'll put a link to it. But that will explain intents and entities and things of that nature if you need more details. But this is also, the planner is the thing that also enables dynamic chaining and also knowledge routing and the conversational context, being completely aware for all the different follow-up questions and things of that nature. And know that we talked about before that there's an own plan complete trigger and there's an own plan response trigger that was coming soon. A lot of these things are actually out now, and what I want to do is I want to show you what these new triggers can do that you have on topics, because that's where there's going to be a lot of great experiences that I'm going to highlight on my channel on the how-to list, but I'm also going to expose to you what they are and how they work in this video. So let's start by taking a look at how this whole generative orchestrator and the whole way that this whole thing works when you flip that switch to turn on generative orchestration. We'll start with a person comes in and they have a query and they go to the Copilot Studio agent that they've built. And when generative orchestration is turned on, the generative orchestrator is going to look at all of the different knowledge and topics and actions, all the different tools that are at its disposal. And it's going to make a decision on which of these tools and what combinations it's going to need to build what we call a plan. And that plan is then going to be executed to make sure that it can go through building out and handling this plan. Now, once that plan is completed and all of the information is gathered back from the plan in which it generated as part of the process of figuring out what to do, then we go through response generation, and this is where you're going to get a single response back. It doesn't matter that you went to 4 different knowledge articles and 6 topics and 3 actions to be able to do it. You're going to get one response back, and this is the response generation. And that response is going to be handed back to the Copilot agent to go back to the user to be able to to answer the question or to service the customer's request. Now, the thing is that that particular user could then ask a follow-up question, and of course the conversational context is being passed into the generative orchestrator to be able to build a new plan or how to enhance the plan to be able to do this over and over in multiple turns. So this is how the generative orchestration and response generation is done inside of Copilot Studio today when you turn on generative orchestration. So now let's talk about topic triggers. And what I normally don't do in my education series is show you the UI, but I figured this would be a good thing for me to show you inside the UI. So if you haven't seen this before, this is Copilot Studio, and this is just an empty agent. Now, if we go into topics right here, you can see where you can create a topic, and I'm going to create one from blank just so that we have something to talk about here. And one of the things a lot of people don't know about is that there is a little thing here, if you hover over the trigger, you'll see these little two arrows, and that allows you to change the trigger. And there's a whole list of triggers that are available. And in this video, I'm going to specifically go over the topic triggers that are available to you that are new when you turn on the generative orchestration layer, and what do those things do. So let's go take a look at that. So let's start by talking about these new different topic triggers that are available to you. One is, we're going to start with the one on the left here, triggered by agent. What this is, and this is the default one that you're going to see, which is where you are going to provide a model description of what the topic can do so your agent can understand what it does and when to use it. It also provides the ability for you to say, here are some orchestration instructions. So when you're trying to say, hey, when should this topic actually be used? This gives you the ability to say, here's a custom description of how this topic should be used, when it should be, when it shouldn't be, and how it should behave when it's being used. And even be able to say, after you do this, also go call this other topic when you're done. So this gives us fine-grained control as the author of the experience or the maker function inside of Copilot Studio. But there's these two others that a lot of people don't even know exist, which is plan complete. Well, plan complete is where you start this topic when the plan actually finishes executing. So when it figures out what is the plan that it wants to do, it allows you to be able to do that and then also be able to say, okay, once it's done with this plan, what do I want it to do? This is a good way to put in like a middleware or something of that nature. Then we have this last one, which is the AI response generated. Now, this is to start the topic before a response is sent to the user by the generative orchestrator. So in other words, it's already generated the response off of the plan, but I don't want to send it to the user quite yet. I want to do this action or this functionality before I send that response back to the actual user. So this is a really good way of being able to do some different things. I've got some videos that are coming up that'll show you how to be able to use this very effectively to be able to help you customize the response that you're going to get from Copilot Studio when generative orchestration comes on. So now let's take a look a little bit deeper at where these things actually hook into the process. So let's first start with triggered by an agent. Where does triggered by an agent actually fire? It fires right after the generative orchestrator receives the information from the user who's come in and said, I would like to be able to get the answer to this type of question, or this is what I'm asking you for. Well, this is why you're going to see triggered by agent existing, because it's going to give the information about when each of these different things need to be executed in order to build the plan. So the generative orchestrator is going to see what the person said. It's going to look at the conversational context and look at that. And then it's going to use the triggered by agent functionality to determine how to build the plan based upon what the different tools that it has at its disposal are available to it. Now, once the plan is generated and the plan is gone through and it executes, this is where plan complete comes in. So this is going to intercept and put you right before response generation, because now we're going to be able to run this particular process or what we put into the topic at that point. So if there's something that you want to do as some sort of additional action or things of that nature before the response is generated, like maybe you want to go set up a set of variables or something like that you want to be used, then you can do that. You can intercept it right here. This is a really good place for you to think about middleware. Now, once we get past that, the response then gets generated, but AI response generated trigger is going to allow us to intercept the response after it's been generated, but before it's handed to the actual user, so that way we can go in and analyze the response and do other things to the response before we actually send the response to the user. This gives you the power to be able to do all the things that you might want to do, such as like look up and check the response for certain pieces of information, things of that nature, just to make sure that you're following certain procedures. So again, I'll have videos coming that show how to hook this for different things like PII analysis and such. So as you can see, Copilot Studio gives us all the different triggers that we need to be able to customize a solution the way we want through generative orchestration. This is a super powerful capability that is available, and if you don't know that it exists, then it's sort of a key concept that you need to think about and be able to understand so that we can start going into how to leverage these new triggers to be able to get experiences that maybe aren't out of the box but are things that we need for corporate compliancy or things of that nature. So I hope this video was super helpful for you to be able to understand how to use Copilot Studio in this way. For more videos like this, you can like and subscribe to my channel. And as always, you can try Copilot Studio at aka.ms/try Copilot Studio.